Segment 1 takes us to episode 3 of Game Changers, in which episode 3 is with the episode title is Atari Takes the Lead. I was looking forward to this one because of my personal history with the console. I had an Atari, not just any Atari. I had the 2600. Thank you very much. And I remember the exact when I first got it. I remember my mother raised this Jehovah's Witness, which means it was quite possibly the smartest move she could make because it kept us away from a lot of holidays and a lot of gifts. But I do recall earlier in the game when they were still a couple where I did get this for Christmas. And I remember the 3 games that came with it. I don't think it came with the system. I think they bought me the 3 games to go with it. They didn't just get me the game. It was Pole Position, pause. It was Qbert. And the third
Is that the little ball with the mouth?
Yeah. The little orange dude, like bloop, bloop, bloop. And then it was, and then of course the classic Pac-Man. Had to get the Pac-Man. So I remember the Atari 2600. So I was really looking forward to this episode. And I have to admit, when I watched this episode, I was very disappointed. Because I finally found out through this documentary here that the gentleman who co-founded Atari, he's actually the original guy to start this. He gave himself co-founder because he brought in the other guy to help with the business side of things. But Nolan Bushnell stood out. He's the co-founder of Atari. And I don't know how you feel. You can share your thoughts. But he came across to me as one hell of an asshole. This guy is a Hall of Fame douchebag. I mean, what a dick. Did I express that enough? This guy's kind of an asshole. I was just
the vibe check I'm getting, though, is that, like, everyone was kind of a fucking asshole.
As we progress, yes, you are correct. He was one of many in the sea of douchebaggery, but by golly geez. So I didn't know. Well, no, the episode opens up with a very good question, for me anyway, it was a very good question. If you're a hardcore, traditional, history-following gamer, then you probably already knew the answer. But for someone like me, who has very limited knowledge of it, this was my first time learning about the PDP-1, the Program Data Processor. Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah.
You had, okay. So this was my first time hearing about it, because they started off the episode very interestingly, where they started off with the basic question, which was the first ever video game. And when they started mentioning the popular answers, that's kind of where my head was too. It was there. Was it Pong? Was it Pac-Man? That's kind of like
Invaders.
Space Invaders is in there.
Similar to that, yeah.
Yeah. So when it came up with Space War, I got that confused with something else. I was like, oh, is that the one? I was thinking, that little, when you're the little spaceship in the middle of the screen.
In the middle.
And asteroids or whatever are coming at you and you shoot that shit.
Yep.
That's what I thought he was talking about until they showed it. And I went, oh, no, that's something completely different. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know what the fuck that is. But my one of my favorite characters in the whole episode, Slug. Steve Russell, the Slug, invented Space War on one of those PDP-1s that had a visor, that had visual capability. Apparently not all of them had that. So that was pretty cool that he was able to put that together. And he came across this idea like every other asshole when they get something in their hand and just, how can I make this shitty thing better? How can I make this shitty thing more fun?
The crazy shit is like, all of those MIT students were looking at computing, calculating, things to improve, just like what's the word I'm looking for? Like collegiate, that's not the word I'm looking for. Like an academic reason for the computer to help with that stuff. And then it's just shocking that it was just one asshole who was like, oh, this has a display. We could probably do something cool with this.
Yeah.
And decided to play around with it.
Yeah.
And just so happened to make it, let me make a game. Like, what can I do with this? Oh, let me make a game. And then it was just like so accidental. It looked like it played really well, considering it was the first ever first ever idea that one random, I'm assuming he was very slow working. That's why they called him Slug.
Yeah, he said, I don't know why they called me that. You know why they call you that, dude. You just didn't want to share.
Motherfucker, yeah. Dude. They give you the complicated task and put you in a corner. You'll fucking figure it out. It'll take you 3 weeks, but you'll get it done.
Yeah, he's dependable. He'll get it done. It's just going to take him a while. He's Sloth from fucking Zootopia. Like, he'll get the job done, but then
it's amazing. No, that moment and then how it kind of unfolds. Honestly, just this to me feels more like a lesson in history than it is even specifically about video games.
Yeah,
The moment, like things like for instance, I was watching a video the other day where the person was like, you need to speak about your ideas to people. I don't know, for some reason people don't like to speak about their ideas because they're afraid, someone's going to steal it. No, you're more likely to get people to help you than steal it. And I'm like, I kind of agreed with that thought, right? Because I'm like, well, yeah, there's patents. There's like I guess it would be you'd have to be like ground level and have the ability to process the idea to create. Like, it's very specific to be able to steal someone's idea today, right? And then if you can get yours off, there's way to protect it, stuff like that. But to me, that after watching this, I'm like, oh, that's just where it comes from. Because it's like, then they talked about it. We don't have patents. Like,
yeah.
By the time we sue somebody, they give us the runaround, we lose money. So you just want to be the best and you want to be the first to it. So it's like one asshole made it for funsies, another asshole saw it and was like, oh, we're out of here.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, the fucking gates are flooded with what this one guy made because he was interested in a display.
Right.
Like that was so interesting.
He took the exact game and went from Space War and renamed it Computer Space and went about his fucking business. That was it.
Yep.
That was it.
It's mine now.
It's mine now. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny.
Crazy.
It's funny because the way when he admits to the patent thing and he's just like, yeah, we didn't really, I think the exact words that he uses is that it was hard to get a patent on those things because they were software technology, and at the time, what is that? Like, define that. Like, how do we patent this? We don't know what it is.
But you would save more money just not doing that than it would actually protect you, is what I got from what he was trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. So this guy took full advantage of this guy being Nolan, the guy that I mentioned earlier. He fucking takes full advantage of the fucking situation. And we're not there yet, but the audacity for this man to start his career fucking ripping this guy off from his game and then being upset later when someone sues him for stealing their IDs. Like, how fucking dare you? How am I supposed to make money off of your shit if you won't let me? This is bullshit. This is your thing.
It's funny because throughout this entire thing, that history constantly repeats itself.
Yeah.
And it even bleeds into today. I thought it was fucking hilarious watching this.
Yeah.
That the people that made Activision because they were being taken advantage of, and they're like, no, we're the ones who fucking we're the ones making you the money, and you're gonna fire us because we're not you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
But fast forward today, Activision is known for being blood-sucking money thieves.
Yep.
Right? I don't know if it's the same owners or any of that, but it's it's just ironic how and that's like me taking today versus that moment right there. Even within this video, you see the cycle happening. This shit is only 2 years apart. It's like fucking the same thing. We're taken advantage of. We leave. We get taken advantage of. We leave because these people knew how to create, but no one knew how to run a business. And the problem with that time, it's like people didn't understand that you get more bees with honey. So although there's bloodsuckers today as well, I would say there's more companies that understand that if you treat your people the best way you can, you'll get them to stay and you can make more money in the long run. Back then, it was fucking dog eat dog, dude. They go in there fuck your games. Fuck how good it is. It's not making money. We need more of this. I need 20 Marios and no more Pong. So they're like, dude, you're not going to be able to sell it. Nope. I need money shows it. The numbers. It shows it. I want it now. Crazy, dude.
So,
absolutely.
So
crazy.
Just to backtrack for a second, I wanted to mention this on the show that they brought up that the PDP-1 was a system that fed through paper and fed through all these different things, and they would do a hole punch system where they would call it hacking. They would hack through it, and that's apparently where the term hacker came from. Now, a person who uses computers to gain unauthorized access to data, which we all know today what that is, but it's funny that it was invented then, and it's kind of, the word itself has kind of been phased out now, because I think everybody to some degree is executing some form of hack.
Is elite hacksaw?
Is it what?
Elite hacksaw is
elite
what my wife
hacksaw. Oh, okay.
Leet.
And so Nolan basically takes the complete idea of Space War, creates computer space under a company called Syzygy. Syzygy. Noun, the nearly straight line configuration of 3 celestial bodies in a gravitational system. This man was deep. He was just like, hey, the way the
don't let that go over your head.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, don't let that shit go over your head. Also, a little fun fact: Atari is what the Japanese yell for checkmate in their version of chess called Wiki. Weiqi. I was like, oh, that's where he got Atari from. Much better than the bullshit he was rocking with 2 seconds ago. So he brought in. So this takes us to, once he's got the computer space thing going, he brings this to bars. He brings this to places where he's playing the game, and it's doing what it's doing. But he wants to get inside the home, man. He is trying to get to where the money is, where the families are, where the people spend their most time. He's trying to get into this, and that takes me to a word I have not heard in forever. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to hear it during a video game documentary, but Magnavox. If you are in my age group, you know all about Magnavoxes. Those are those big ass. This was back when when TV was furniture. It was a box.
Yeah.
It was wood.
Yeah.
It was this big ass, like you put family heirlooms on top of this shit. You could smack the
we
top
had
of
one.
it. Yeah, we had one for free.
We had a couple, actually.
Yeah, we ran through a couple of them, that's for sure. Yeah, but we did. We did. And that's why when I heard that, I was surprised. And it even said on the documentary that it was a TV thing, and they sold this and they sold that. And they created the Magnavox Odyssey, which is one of the original, if not the original. I can't remember which one it was, if it was one of the originals or the original home console. And it had 2 rectangles and a little dot in the middle going back and forth and back and forth. Didn't keep score, didn't have sound, no sound effects, but it was the precursor. It was the makings of one of the most infamous video games of all time, Pong. And that's where it began. And once again, Nolan saw a fresh idea and got rock hard. He was just like, oh man.
Give me your ideas, boy.
Give me your fucking ideas, boy. Mine. And he proceeded to take exactly that and do what they did. They started adding they started creating cartridges for with these games, with the computer chips and the processing and all that stuff. Now we're getting fancy. And they decided to put all that together, and they created the game that we all know now as Pong. But unfortunately, and I wrote these down because these were amazing to me, that along with Atari, so many other gaming consoles came out, and they all had Pong as well. But not the way we have it now where you license it. No, they had their versions of Pong. TV Ping Pong, Paddleball, Elang Pong, TV Tennis, Paddle Battle, Pong Trong, Pub Pong.
I think you're slow walking into racist territory.
I was just gonna say that whole sentence was racist. If you add an accent to that, that's racist. TV Ping Pong, Paddleball, Elang Pong, TV Tennis.
If you were not Asian, we would be out of here.
There you go. I'd be off the air right now.
off the air.
Even though we're just recording. They brought in Ralph Baer, who had the patent on video games, and that was... Remember before you were saying, and the guy had brought it up, we just didn't believe in patents or whatever. This guy, Ralph Baer, who worked for Magnavox, had a patent. Several of them, actually.
Yeah.
And I laughed.
And good lawyers.
Because they were smart in their wording. When I heard this sentence, I paused and I laughed until I had tears, and my wife thought I was having a stroke. Because he said, word for word, this is what he said, they had several patents. You can see the numbers. They showed it on the screen, one of the affidavits. And one of the patents they had was on video games. They patent video games. Just broad, just across the board. It's mine. All of it. All video games. When you're first,
I like that game. It's mine.
When you're first, I guess you make the rules when you're first. So they said
all. Telling you can't.
Yeah, they didn't even know what it was. They're like, yeah, sure. They saw that paperwork and said, sure, whatever that shit is, video games, whatever that is, yeah, you can have it.
That's why.
So Atari is out here going banana sandwich and selling all these fucking video games, and now they can't because Magnavox is like, fuck you. So they had to work out some sort of deal, and they did, where Atari pays Magnavox $500K up front. That's off the rip. That's bottom line right there. Then it's $100K a year for 5 years, and this is the best part. And they must go after everyone else after them. That means for every other company that exists afterwards that wants to make video games, Magnavox has to sue them too, just to make it fair. He was feeling so upset in his feelings that he was trying to steal this motherfucker's idea. They just wouldn't let him do it. He's like, just let me have your money. What is the problem here?
It's fucking genius, though, because then it just becomes, all right, I want to sue them, but then I have to do everybody. It's financially not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking genius. Dude.
Well, that's the part of, that's, to me, that was the whole point of a patent, right? Because they probably had it in their head they would at least do something to somebody who did it. Fun fact again, I didn't know this, but it made total sense. Up until this point of the story, I dislike Nolan a great deal. And he looks to me, as the more he talks, like a shriveling little shit. Like he's not a genius. He's not that guy. He hasn't built a thing. He hasn't invented a fucking thing. He hasn't done shit with his hands except sign checks and fill out paperwork. He has found a way to make money doing nothing, right? Right place, right time. And then I laughed when they made mention that Steve Jobs worked at Atari.
They lightly said they threw that in there.
They threw that in there, and I went, that makes all the fucking sense in the world now. Because there is another motherfucker who became so famous for fucking nothing. He did nothing. But he's at one point one of the richest men in the fucking world and synonymous with the Apple product. That it was just, and when they said that, I said, that's fucking amazing. I was very surprised to hear that Warner Communications got involved purchasing Atari. I didn't know that. That was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And they brought in Ray Kassar, who had his hands in the fashion industry, but more importantly, Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah, that one was crazy.
I was like, yo, small fucking world. All these things being mixed around. But of course, Ray comes in and he's butting heads with Nolan because who wouldn't? And then along comes Puckman. Now, for those of you out there who did not see the show and don't know what I'm talking about, that's Pac-Man before it became Pac-Man. It started off in Japan as Puckman, and when they brought it to the States, they decided to change the name because they were afraid, and I quote, that the teenagers would have way too much fun with Puckman. They're one letter away from really fucking up the marketing of this game. And as a former teenager of the 90s and a kid who was born in the 80s, I support that 100%. I would have definitely called it Fuckman Definitely, I would have definitely. So you guys were smart in that aspect because I would have been all over that, and I would have been.
Marketing team was on it.
Yeah, they did their job because I would have been the first asshole in school telling my teacher that I'm going home to play Fuckman. I would have done it. So I'm glad that they thought for me and thought
they kept you out of detention.
They minimalized it, I guess. They gave me an opportunity.
There you go.
I still found my way there. Stan Jarocki, who made a very interesting point about how old he is. He kept beating that point home that he was old. He's like, I'm an old man. I did 50 years of this, 40 years of that. This man was a living, breathing manual of whatever the fuck he was doing. And he was the former VP of marketing for Bally Midway. Midway, we all know. Famous video game company. He was the VP for marketing there. He had a very good point. I wanted to ask you about this and how you felt about that point. You were the first person that came to mind when I heard this. When he started describing one of his favorite aspects of the new games that was coming out, especially the arcade games, the coin-op based games, where they had started developing leaderboards. Where people were playing the games and then they were establishing almost like a status of like a top 10 or a top 20 or whatever it is, and that to him changed the game because it became more competitive than just how far can I go. Now it's, can I beat the guy who is on top of that list? What was your take on that when you heard that part about the leaderboard? How big was that?
Oh, I popped when I heard him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
When he said the introduction of leaderboard, did you see how excited he was?
Oh, he was. Oh man,
That's how I felt.
Yeah,
because he was right. Because it's one of those like, I don't know, man. It just felt like, dude, he's right, man. Like competition, like even to this day, dude, trying to play games that don't at least have a little bit of competitiveness to it. It's just tough, man. It ruins like gaming almost. Like, you can't just have fun. You got to be the best at it.
So you got your pros and cons with that. Because there were people putting in quarters trying to break records on some of those machines.
Oh, yeah. Dude, you go to school bragging about that stuff. Dude. I'm sure back in that day. And the cool thing, too, back then, it's like every arcade had its own individual thing, right? So, like, if you had a couple... I'm sure this happened where, like, if you had a couple arcades within a certain radius, they're like, bro, I'm number one at Pat's Pizza, the arcade place, and over at the whatever place, the movie theater, I have number one on every single one of those. Yeah. And now you're like, bro, I gotta beat that. I gotta take that record.
I have to.
I have to. Yeah, absolutely. I gotta go mow some lawns, get some quarters, and get over there and get that record.
This is a little off track, but as far as the leaderboard goes, each game usually had its own set of numerical spots, but traditionally, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, whenever you got on the leaderboard, it was three initials. It was three you would put. And I remember going to a pizzeria by our grandmother's house one time, way back when, and I was playing, and the leaderboard would, as soon as the game was over, the leaderboard would pop up. And you would see some of the most interesting initials on there, like TIT. Ass, tit, DIC, dick, CUM, cum. There was some very interesting choices.
Kids are such children.
Kids are such children, yes. Absolutely right. Kids. Can't fucking do nothing with them, and so on and so forth. So after the fucking leaderboard discussion here, Namco, another world famous video game designing company, they got their start with amusement rides for kids at amusement parks, and then wandered into toys, and then wandered into gaming. Quick side note, Namco and Bandai, I'm not sure, are they one and the same now, or are they just two...
I think they're the same.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
So the reason why I bring it up is because we just got some
think they're Banco. Yeah, I think they're the same. I'd have to look it up.
We just got some very interesting news. So I don't even know why this was on our phones, but probably, I guess, because of where we are. But Banco and Banco, I just combined it to two. Namco and Bandai are Japanese-based companies, and they have pretty much spent all of their time, obviously, in their native countries. But because of that, they haven't really expanded out of Japan until recently, a few years back, when they made a store in London. And by store, I mean like an actual retail store. So you're buying the merch, you're buying exclusive Japanese, like you can't get it anywhere else, you know? And so they opened up a place in London that has been very, very, very successful. So they decided to open up a third store, and that third store is here in Brooklyn. And it's 30 short blocks from my house. So it's not even like on a weird section of Brooklyn. It's like right there. At a location that I was literally just at over the weekend. We go there all the time. And I didn't hear about it except that it was like a notification for an article on my phone. So my wife was like, oh shit, we should probably go check that out. And I was like, yeah, we probably should. And then we didn't. And then a friend of ours went, and they're like, don't go yet. Because everybody and their fucking mother was there, and it's packed to the gills. So I was like, all right, I'll wait. Until until that happens. But Toru Iwatani, the father of Pac-Man, one of the game gurus of Namco, introduced. He started his first game with GB. And I looked at that and I was just like, woo, baby, good thing for Pac-Man. Don't let that be your fucking legacy. And Tadashi Yamashita, who is the former Namco visual artist, he's the one who quote-unquote made Pac-Man cute. Which I thought was interesting because that was always the rumor when we were kids. I don't remember a press release. I don't remember a commercial. I don't remember anything official making it so. But it was always kind of assumed when we were kids. Maybe you remember things differently, but I remember very specifically there used to be kind of an aura around Pac-Man. They're like, oh, that's for girls. And I was like, I never understood that because I loved playing Pac-Man. So I was like, I don't really get how it's just, for girls or whatever. And then I'm watching this and they're like, yeah, we made this shit for girls. And I was like, what?
Yeah, well, they said why, though. They said because everything in the market was very gritty, very blood, very guts.
Yeah.
And it was very simple. Like, if you think about it, it's really, aside from the Miss Pac-Man, there's really nothing girly about Pac-Man per se.
Yeah.
But if you put it next to Doom, then, it's pretty girly.
Yeah. Yeah, so they were like, yeah, that girls were being dragged to the arcade with their boyfriends and they wouldn't actually play anything. The boys would do all the playing. And here was this one game now where they could put down and girls would jump on board and then go, hey, that sounds like a fun game. Let's play that. And that's kind of how, Pac-Man, they advertised it that Pac-Man was played by boys, men, girls, women, aunts, uncles, grandmas. Everybody played Pac-Man. Everybody knows Pac-Man.
Damn, not me, Ma.
This past weekend, on the 1st, was my son's birthday party, which thank you again for attending. And this past Thursday was his actual birthday. So the party was on Saturday. Thursday was his actual birthday. We picked him up early from school, took him somewhere to eat. We went to Dave & Buster's, and of course we're at Dave & Buster's, and he's playing Pac-Man. That fucking game is generational. My kids are gonna, my grandkids are gonna fucking play Pac-Man at some point. I lost my shit again. I had to pause it when they said, well, because of the success of the Atari, this is now when they're starting to get into the crash of 83. We touched on this a little bit when we saw the first episode with Nintendo. And they got into more specifics here about the crash of 83, flooding the market, just dummy accounts and just dummy games and just all kinds of everything. It just turned all of the fans off of what was happening. And this was the beginning starts of that, the crash of 83. And when they were trying to illustrate how serious it was, how saturated the market was, they were like, Quaker Oats had a game, and I said, "Squeeze me." Yeah. And I said, "Squeeze me? What is this?" And I thought it was like literal like a Quaker Oats game. I was like, "How the fuck does that work?" And then they showed footage, and I couldn't tell what the fuck I was looking at. So I paused it.
Quaker Oats.
I Googled it. It was not actually called Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats, the food company, started a video game division with plans to make multiple games, but it failed after just the first game because their first game was called Sneak and Peek. It was basically just hide and seek as a video game. Quaker Oats, the oatmeal company, made a video game of hide and seek. Not surprised.
I mean, you say that they were just ahead of their time. I mean, is it like Friday Night at Freddy's, something kind of similar to that a little bit, like the concept?
Five Nights at Freddy. You talking
about being found or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, but the graphics are way better.
way.
And we're storyboarding here. You know, there's an actual concept here, not just what appeared to be a pixelated.
I don't know, man. If they would have made Friday Night at the Quaker Oat man's house, that shit would have been pretty scary too.
I was gonna say that's pretty frightening. That is pretty frightening. I'll give you that one.
It's my wife's number one fear, Quaker Oats guy.
We'll unpack that another day. Jesus Christ. We have to have that conversation. So Nolan eventually does get removed from his position. I mean, not forcefully. There had to be some sort of acclamation. So he gets put out of his contract and he leaves. And this is where the documentary, we're coming to the end of this first one, hits me with a softball right to the gut. Because he goes, yeah, I left them. And then I was just like, I don't know, let's try to do something else. And this motherfucker left Atari and founded Chuck E. Cheese. And I was like, what the fuck is happening here?
When he said you can't say Chuck E. Cheese without smiling, I did it. I was like, oh, that man's fucking brilliant.
That man is fucking brilliant. I'm telling you.
Fucking brilliant, dude. Can't say it without smiling.
He invented nothing and yet has his hands in fucking everything. This fucking guy.
Deep pockets, brother.
And
deep pockets.
Here's how the episode ended, and I think it was perfect because it transitioned right into the next, which was that the big the Gang of Four of their top video game designers, the guys who get their hands dirty here, who make the games, had a meeting, and they didn't go into specifics here, but they did go into specifics in the next episode, so I'll save that. But they had a meeting with the folks over at Atari, and we're basically told, hey, you guys are a dime a dozen, you're easy peasy on the Switch. We can bring anybody's ass in here to do the job that you do. We're not really worried about you. So they quit.